Hello, this is Randy Rolfe from the Institute for Creative Solutions, sharing foundational concepts about vibrant health through natural living. And I've been teaching nutrition for over 40 years and seen popular ideas going up and down about eggs, about sugar, about red meat. And most recently, there was a study saying, well, red meat and processed meat isn't so bad after all. And there's a whole lot of interesting controversy about this study, if you want to call it that. What they did was they looked at all the studies and they said, well, there's no real double-blind controlled studies to prove that red meat and processed meat are dangerous for your health. Well, of course there aren't, because it's impossible to do that kind of study with a human population. You can't say, okay, everybody eat exactly the same thing for 20 years. You don't eat any red meat and you do. It's not going to happen. But there are epidemiological studies that do have enough control that we can draw some very intelligent conclusions. Like people that don't eat red meat and people who do. And there are populations around the world. Now, some of them have very, very different diets altogether. So you can't say it's because of the meat or not the meat. But there are very clear indications that the problem today with red meat has nothing to do with it being red meat. We've been eating red meat since as far back as we can go. And we don't need red meat in the tropics because there's food everywhere, 365 days a year. But as you go south, like in South America, or north to Alaska or Norway, there are certain times of the year there's no source of food unless you're killing animals for the energy they have stored into their bodies. So we've been using meat, red meat, for as long as humanity's been around. But the difference is in the last century, we've added chemicals. We've started animal farming where we are feeding them food that is not natural to them. And it may even be GMO soybeans or GMO corn. And corn and soybeans change their whole metabolism and force them to put on weight when they wouldn't normally if they were out grazing on the hillside. And it changes their whole bodies because their digestion is messed up, their immune system is messed up, and then they're given many different antibiotics and food additives to try to increase the rate of putting on weight so that it's cheaper for the people that are selling the beef. So basically, unhealthy animals are not going to make healthy humans. So you have to, if you want red meat, you have to buy it where it's been organically raised, where they've been able to graze outdoors, they've had sunshine, and so on. They're healthy, happy animals before we kill them. Same with, it's even worse with processed meats because they are laced with chemicals that didn't exist in the human diet 100 years ago. So that's where the difference is. And very few studies make a distinction there. And we kind of blanket all red meat because there's cholesterol, but that has been completely debunked. That was developed again by the food processors in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And there's no basis for it. Eating healthy red meat and minimally processed sausages that are homemade from healthily grown animals, pork, and so on, is just as healthy as chicken. Now, if you don't want to kill big mammals, I can certainly appreciate that, and you don't have to eat red meat. So that's certainly an ethical or moral choice you can make. But as far as health, there's nothing wrong with red meat if it's healthy and not over-processed. That's clear. So that headline can makes sense. But they make no distinction between the unhealthy animals and the chemicalized meat that most people in America are eating. And that puts a huge burden on their immune system, their digestive system, their kidneys, their liver, their lungs. Our systems have to deal with all these foreign chemicals and the materials that are developed in unhealthy animals. So don't succumb to this, what's called nutritional nihilism, where you just say, oh, you know, everybody disagrees about all the nutrition, so I'll just eat whatever I buy in the supermarket. You do have to discriminate among your food choices because we're being deluged with food that isn't good for us. So don't get confused by these conflicts. Don't get nihilistic where you say, oh, well, none of it makes any sense. There is a real truth to it. We have been eating since time immemorial, and we need to stick to the foods that have sustained us in the past without all the stresses of added chemicals and eating unhealthy animals. So that's it for today. Look for the truth. Thank you.